Please, miss, they'll kill you if you don't give me back. Emily stared at the 8-year-old boy clutching her apron, his voice shaking with terror she'd never heard from a child. Behind him, 3 men in $1,000 suits blocked her apartment door. The tallest one smiled cold professional and said, "You fed Vincenzo Romano's son. That was your first mistake. Your second was thinking you could keep him." Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. She was a waitress. She'd made scrambled eggs. How did breakfast become a death sentence? The boy's father, the most dangerous man in 5 states, was waiting downstairs, and she had exactly 5 minutes to decide, give up the child she'd saved or face the monster who owned him. Before this story goes any further, do me a favor, subscribe and hit that bell, because you won't believe where Emily's choice takes her. Stay until the very end and comment what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story reaches. You have something that belongs to me. The voice came through Emily's phone at 11 p.m., smooth and cold as winter steel. She'd been sitting on her couch for 3 hours watching Mikey sleep, trying to convince herself she'd done the right thing. "Who is this?" Emily whispered, though she already knew. "Vincenzo Romano, my son is in your apartment." Emily's blood turned to ice. "How did you get my number?" "I own half this town, Miss Carter. Getting your number took 4 minutes." A pause. "Keeping my son safe from me took considerably more courage." "I respect that." "Then respect that he doesn't want to come home." "Home isn't always about wanting, Miss Carter. It's about survival. And right now my son isn't safe anywhere except with me." He was hiding behind a dumpster, terrified. "Because someone puts a price on his head 3 days ago." Vincenzo's voice cut through her protest like a knife. $50,000 to anyone who delivers my son to my enemies. "So tell me, Miss Carter, how long before someone in your building decides you're not worth protecting?" Emily looked at her apartment door, suddenly aware of how thin it was. "You're lying. I might check your hallway." Emily's hand shook as she walked to the door, peered through the peephole. 2 men in suits stood at opposite ends of the hallway, both watching her door. "Those are my men," Vincenzo said. "They've been there since 6 p.m., making sure no one else finds you first. You're welcome." "I didn't ask for protection. You asked for it the moment you fed my son." Emily pressed her forehead against the door, trying to think. "What do you want?" "I want you to bring Mikey down to my car. I want to thank you personally for keeping him alive. And then I want you to forget we ever existed. And if I say no, then you watch your apartment burn with both of you inside by morning. My enemies aren't patient, Miss Carter, and they don't leave witnesses." The line went dead. Emily stood frozen, the phone slipping from her hand. This wasn't happening. This couldn't be happening. She was Emily Carter, waitress, nursing school dropout, nobody from nowhere. She didn't get threatening phone calls from Mafia bosses. "Miss Emily," she spun around. Mikey was awake, sitting up on the couch, his dark hair sticking up in every direction. "Did he call you?" Mikey's voice was small, defeated. "How did you know?" "Because he always finds me." Mikey pulled his knees to his chest. "I've run away 4 times. He always finds me in less than a week." Emily sat beside him, her mind racing. "Why do you keep running if you know he'll find you?" "Because maybe one time he won't." Mikey looked at her with those 2 old eyes. "Maybe one time I'll get far enough that even he can't reach me." "Mikey, your father said people are trying to hurt you." "People are always trying to hurt me. That's what happens when your dad is Vincenzo Romano." Mikey said his father's name like a curse. "But you know what's worse than people trying to hurt me? Watching my dad hurt them back." Emily's stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" "Last month, someone tried to kidnap me from school. 3 men with guns." Mikey's voice went flat, emotionless. "My dad's men killed all 3 of them, right in front of me. Then my dad took me to dinner and ordered my favorite dessert like nothing happened." "Oh, Mikey." "I asked him why they've had to die. He said because they touched what's mine. Not because they scared me, not because they were bad men, just because they touched his property." Mikey's voice cracked. "That's all I am to him. Property." Emily pulled Mikey into a hug, and he cried against her shoulder, hard, silent sobs that shook his whole body. A knock at the door made them both freeze. "Miss Carter," a man's voice, professional and polite. "Mr. Romano is waiting." Emily's heart hammered. "Tell him I need more time." "He gave you 12 minutes. You have 2 left." Mikey grabbed Emily's arm. Don't let them take me. Please. Emily looked at this terrified child, then at the door where armed men waited, then at her phone where a crime boss had just threatened to burn her alive. She made a decision. We're leaving, she whispered to Mikey, right now. There's no way out. They're watching. The fire escape, out my bedroom window. Miss Emily, if we run, he'll find us. He always finds me. Then we'll run far enough that he can't. It was insane. It was suicide, but watching Mikey's face light up with desperate hope made it worth it. Emily grabbed her purse, shoved in her wallet phone, and the envelope Vincenzo had slipped under her door earlier, the one with enough money to disappear for months if they were careful. Put on your shoes, she whispered. Quiet as you can. Another knock, harder this time. Miss Carter, your time is up. Just a minute, Emily called, her voice shaking. I'm getting him ready. She pulled Mikey into her bedroom, closed the door, and opened the window. Cold October air rushed in along with the distant sound of traffic. Can you climb down? She whispered. Mikey nodded, already halfway out the window. Emily followed him onto the rusty fire escape, her hands slipping on cold metal. They climbed down 1 floor, 2 floors, her heart in her throat every time the metal creaked. Behind them, she heard shouting. They'd figured it out. Faster, Emily hissed, half climbing, half falling down the last ladder. They hit the alley behind the building and ran. Emily had no plan beyond away from the men in suits, away from Vincenzo Romano, away from whatever nightmare she'd stumbled into by giving a hungry kid scrambled eggs. They ran 3 blocks before Emily's lungs burned so badly she had to stop. She pulled Mikey behind a closed gas station, both of them gasping for air. Where are we going? Mikey panted. I don't know. They have cars. We're on foot. They'll catch us. Not if... Emily stopped. A black SUV turned onto their street, moving slowly, searching. Hide, Emily breathed, pulling Mikey deeper into the shadows. The SUV passed within 10 feet of them. Emily held her breath. Mikey held on to the insane hope that they could actually escape this. The SUV kept going. Emily waited 30 seconds, then whispered, We need a car. I know how to hotwire, Mikey said. Emily stared at him. You're 8. I'm Vincenzo Romano's son. I learned lots of things I shouldn't know. They found an old Honda in a grocery store parking lot. Mikey had it started in less than 2 minutes, his small fingers working the wires with practiced ease that made Emily's heart ache. You drive, Mikey said, climbing into the passenger seat. Emily got behind the wheel, her hands shaking so badly she could barely hold the steering wheel. She'd stolen a car. She was fleeing from the Mafia with their boss's 8-year-old son. This was either the bravest or stupidest thing she'd ever done. Probably both. She drove. They made it 40 miles before Emily's phone rang. She didn't want to answer. Answering meant hearing Vincenzo Romano's voice, meant facing the consequences of what she'd just done. But the phone kept ringing. Finally, Emily answered. I'm sorry. Sorry, Vincenzo's voice was eerily calm. You steal my son, hotwire a car and run, and you're sorry. He's terrified of you. He should be terrified of the people hunting him. But instead, he's in a stolen Honda with a waitress who thinks she's saving him. Do you have any idea what you've done? I'm giving him a chance. You're getting him killed. Vincenzo's composure finally cracked. My enemies have eyes everywhere, Miss Carter. Every cop, every gas station, every person with the phone is a potential threat. And now you've taken away his only protection, me. Some protection, he'd rather die than live with you. Silence, long and terrible. When Vincenzo spoke again, his voice was different, quieter, broken. I know. Emily's grip on the phone tightened. You think I don't know my son hates me, Vincenzo continued. You think I don't see the way he flinches when I walk into a room. I'm a monster, Miss Carter. I know exactly what I am, but I'm the monster keeping him alive. By showing him violence, by teaching him to steal cars and kill people. I never taught him to steal cars. He learned that from watching my men. Because in my world, survival means learning every escape route. Vincenzo's voice hardened. And I never taught him to kill. I keep that part of my life away from him. Always. Then explain why he saw you murder 3 men. Because they put their hands on my son. The rage in Vincenzo's voice made Emily's hands shake. They grabbed him, put a gun to his head, and threatened to scatter his pieces across 5 states if I didn't surrender my territory. So yes, I killed them. I killed them slowly, and I'd do it again without hesitation. Emily's throat went tight. In front of an 8-year-old. In front of my son, who needed to understand that his father will burn the world down before letting anyone hurt him. That's not love. That's ownership. In my world, they're the same thing. Emily looked at Mikey in the passenger seat. He was staring out the window, pretending not to listen, but she saw the tears on his cheeks. Your world is sick, Emily said. My world is all I have, and it's all he has too, whether he likes it or not. Vincenzo paused. Turn around, Miss Carter. Bring him home. No. Then you're sentencing him to death. My enemies will find you. Could be an hour, could be a day, but they will find you, and when they do, they won't just kill him. They'll make him suffer, first film it, send it to me as a message. Is that the future you want for the boy you're trying to save? Emily's vision blurred with tears. There has to be another way. There isn't, not in my world. Then change your world. Vincenzo laughed, bitter and broken. I can't change 20 generations of blood and violence because a waitress told me to. You can try and fail and watch my son die in the crossfire. Is that what you want? Emily didn't have an answer. The phone went dead. She drove for another 10 minutes before she saw the roadblock. Police cars' lights flashing, blocking both lanes. Officers standing with hands on their weapons. He called the cops, Mikey whispered. We're trapped. Emily's heart sank. She slowed the car, trying to think of any way out. An officer approached her window, tapped on the glass. Emily rolled it down. License and registration, ma'am. Emily's hands shook as she reached for her purse, but she'd stolen this car. She had nothing. I don't have... The officer's radio crackled. A voice came through, let them pass. The officer's expression changed. He stepped back, waved to his colleagues. The roadblock parted. Emily drove through her mind, spinning. What just happened? Her phone rang again. I own half this town, Vincenzo said quietly. That includes the police. You can run, Miss Carter, but you can't hide. Not from me. Then why let us go? Because my son chose you. And maybe, just maybe, I should trust his judgment for once. Emily's breath caught. What are you saying? I'm saying you have 24 hours. Keep him safe. Keep him happy. Give him one day where he doesn't have to be Vincenzo Romano's son. Then bring him back to me. And if I don't, then I stop being reasonable. Vincenzo's voice went cold. 24 hours, Miss Carter. Use them wisely. The line went dead. Emily looked at Mikey. Did you hear that? Mikey nodded, his eyes wide. Why would he do that? I don't know. But Emily thought she understood. Vincenzo Romano was a monster, but maybe monsters could love their children enough to let them go, even if only for a day. Where do you want to go? Emily asked Mikey. Mikey thought for a long moment. Somewhere with normal kids, doing normal things. Emily's heart broke. Okay, let's find normal. They drove until they reached a town 3 hours from Millbrook. Small, quiet, the kind of place where kids played in parks and nobody knew what a Romano was. Emily used some of Vincenzo's money to buy new clothes for Mikey, to get them a motel room, to take him to a diner that wasn't Rosie's. Order anything you want, Emily said, sliding a menu across the table. Mikey stared at it like it was written in a foreign language. My dad always orders for me. Not today. Mikey ordered pancakes with chocolate chips. When they arrived, he ate slowly, savoring every bite, and Emily realized he'd probably never been allowed to choose his own food before. This is the best day of my life, Mikey said, syrup on his chin. Emily smiled, but her heart ached, because tomorrow she'd have to give him back. After breakfast, they went to a park. Mikey played on the swings, laughing, actually laughing, as Emily pushed him higher and higher. Look, Miss Emily, I'm flying. Other children joined them. Normal kids with normal lives who didn't know Mikey was anything other than another boy on the playground. Mikey made a friend, a girl named Sophie, who challenged him to a race across the monkey bars. Emily watched Mikey be 8 years on for the first time in his life, and she understood why Vincenzo had given them this day. Sometimes love means letting go, even if it's only for 24 hours. They spent the afternoon at an arcade, feeding quarters into machines, Mikey's eyes lighting up every time he won a prize. They ate ice cream that dripped down their hands. They watched the sunset from a hilltop overlooking the town. I don't want tomorrow to come, Mikey said quietly. I know. Can we stay here forever? Emily wanted to say yes, wanted to promise him a future full of days like this, but she couldn't lie to him. Your dad loves you, she said instead. I know you don't believe that. I know he's shown his love in terrible ways, but he does love you. He has a funny way of showing good. Sometimes people don't know how to love right. Doesn't mean they don't love at all. Mikey was quiet for a long time. Do you think he'll ever change? I don't know, but I think you might change him. How when? By showing him what real strength looks like. Not violence, not control, just kindness. Mikey looked at her with those two old eyes. You really believe that? I have to. They went back to the motel. Mikey fell asleep easily, exhausted and happy, clutching a stuffed bear he'd won at the arcade. Emily sat awake watching him, dreading tomorrow. At midnight, her phone rang. How is he? Vincenzo asked. Happy. For the first time since I met him. Thank you for that. Don't thank me yet. I'm thinking about running. I know. That's why I'm calling. Vincenzo sighed. I could stop you. Could have my men surround your motel right now. But I'm not going to. Why not? Because I want my son to come home willingly. I want him to choose me just once. Vincenzo's voice cracked. Do you have children, Miss Carter? No. Then you don't understand what it's like to be loved by someone who's terrified of you. To see them flinch every time you reach for them, to know you're the monster in their nightmares. Emily's throat tightened. Then stop being the monster. I can't. My world doesn't allow it. Then leave your world. And go where do what? I'm Vincenzo Romano. I can't just retire and open a coffee shop. Why not? Vincenzo laughed, actually laughed. You're serious. Why can't you walk away? Because the people I've hurt, the families I've destroyed, the enemies I've made, they don't just forgive and forget. If I walk away, I'm dead within a month. And so is my son. So you're trapped. We're both trapped. Me and my world, him and being my son. Vincenzo paused. But maybe there's a third option. What? You? Emily's heart stopped. What about me? Mikey chose you. In 8 years, he's never trusted anyone except me. But he trusts you. Vincenzo's voice was careful, measured. What if you stayed in his life, not as a kidnapper, as something else? You're asking me to be his nanny. I'm asking you to be the normal he desperately needs. Emily's mind raced. I'm a waitress. I have no experience with. You gave him the best day of his life with quarters and ice cream. That's more than I've managed in 8 years. Vincenzo's voice softened. I'm offering you a job, Miss Carter. Live in. Salary that'll cover your nursing school 3 times over. All you have to do is teach my son how to be a normal kid. And what, just ignore that his father runs the Mafia? No, help him navigate it. Be the voice that tells him he has choices when everyone else tells him he doesn't. Emily thought about Mikey's laughter today, his smile, the way he'd finally looked like a child instead of a tiny adult carrying the weight of generations. I need to think about it, she said. You have until noon tomorrow. Bring him back to the original address. We'll talk then. Vincenzo hung up. Emily stared at the phone, her mind spinning with impossible possibilities. Could she actually do this? Live in Vincenzo Romano's world? Teach his son kindness while surrounded by violence? She looked at Mikey sleeping peacefully and she knew. She'd do anything to keep that smile on his face, even if it meant walking into the darkness. Emily didn't sleep. She sat in that motel chair until 6 a.m. watching Mikey breathe, watching the clock tick down her decision. At 6:15, Mikey's eyes opened. You're still here, he whispered. Where else would I be? I thought maybe you'd leave. Everyone leaves eventually. Emily's heart cracked. I'm not everyone. Mikey sat up, rubbing his eyes. Are you taking me back? I'm taking us both back. Mikey's face went white. What? Your father offered me a job, to stay with you, to help you be a normal kid. In his house, with his men, with all the Mikey's voice rose. That's not normal, Miss Emily. That's prison. It's a prison with ice cream and playgrounds, and someone who cares if you're happy. He doesn't care if I'm happy. He cares if I'm alive. Emily knelt in front of him. Maybe teaching him the difference is the job. Mikey stared at her for a long moment. You're really going to live with us? If you want me to. What if I don't? Emily's stomach dropped. Then I'll walk away right now. This is your choice, Mikey. Not your father's. Yours. Mikey looked down at his hands. If you're there, will he hurt less people? I don't know. Will he let me go to regular school? I'll fight for it. Will he stop looking at me like I'm something he owns? Emily took Mikey's hands. I'll remind him every day that you're someone he loves. Mikey's eyes filled with tears. Okay, 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 you can come. But Miss Emily, Mikey's voice dropped to a whisper. If it gets too bad, if he hurts you or scares you, you have to promise you'll leave. Don't stay because of me. I'm staying exactly because of you. They packed in silence. Emily left money on the motel dresser for the stolen Honda, not enough to cover it, but enough to ease her conscience. They took a bus back toward Millbrook. Mikey pressed his face against the window, watching the normal world slip away with every mile. I had fun yesterday, he said quietly. Me too. Do you think we can do it again sometime? I'll make sure of it. My father won't let you. He doesn't let me do anything fun. Then I'll have to be more stubborn than him. Mikey almost smiled. Nobody's more stubborn than Vincenzo Romano. Watch me. At 11:47 a.m. they stood outside an address that wasn't in Millbrook. It was 30 minutes outside town, down a private road that wound through woods so thick Emily couldn't see the sky. The house appeared suddenly. Not a house, a compound. Stone walls, iron gates, men in suits with visible weapons. This is where you live, Emily breathed. This is where I'm kept, Mikey corrected. The gates opened before they could knock. A woman appeared mid-50s, silver hair pulled back severely, wearing a black dress that screamed money and authority. You must be Miss Carter. Her voice was cold British precision. I'm Mrs. Chen. I manage Mr. Romano's household. Nice to meet you. Michael, your father is waiting in his study. Go. Mikey flinched at his full name but didn't argue. He walked into the house without looking back. Emily started to follow, but Mrs. Chen's hand shot out, blocking her path. A word first, Miss Carter. I really should. Mr. Romano may have hired you, but I run this house, and I've seen a dozen women like you come through these gates thinking they could change him, save his son, make a difference. Mrs. Chen's eyes were hard as diamonds. They all left within 3 months. Most left crying. One left in an ambulance. Emily's mouth went dry. What happened to her? She got between Mr. Romano and his business. That's a fatal mistake. Mrs. Chen stepped closer. You seem like a sweet girl. Kind heart, good intentions. But kindness doesn't survive in this house. It gets crushed. So here's my advice. Do your job, collect your paycheck, and don't get attached. Not to the boy, not to the fantasy that you can fix this family. Understand? No. Mrs. Chen blinked. Excuse me. I don't understand, because I already am attached to that boy. And I don't care how many women failed before me, I'm not them. You're exactly like them. Then I'll be the first one who succeeds. Mrs. Chen studied her for a long, cold moment. Then something shifted in her expression. Not warmth exactly, but something close to respect. God help you, she said quietly and stepped aside. Emily walked into Vincenzo Romano's world. The house was exactly what she expected, dark wood, expensive art furniture that cost more than her entire year's salary. But it was also cold. No family photos, no signs of life, just wealth displayed like armor. Voices echoed from down the hall. Vincenzo's voice deep and controlled. Mikey's voice small and defensive. Emily followed the sound. Told you running was dangerous. I wasn't running from danger, I was running from you. Emily reached the study doorway. Vincenzo stood behind a massive desk, his hands pressed flat on the dark wood. Mikey stood on the opposite side, his small body rigid with defiance. Neither had noticed her yet. Everything I do is to protect you, Vincenzo said, his voice strained. Everything you do is to control me. Those are the same thing. No, they're not, Mikey's voice cracked. Protection is keeping me safe. Control is keeping me prisoner. And you can't tell the difference anymore. Vincenzo's jaw tightened. When you're older, I'll be just like you. Is that what you want? Because it's what everyone says is going to happen. That's not... Vincenzo saw Emily. His expression shifted instantly from wounded father to controlled businessman. Miss Carter, thank you for bringing my son home. I brought myself home, too, Emily said, stepping into the room. We had a deal. We did. Vincenzo gestured to a chair. Sit. We have terms to discuss. Emily sat. Mikey immediately moved to stand behind her chair, his hand gripping the back like a lifeline. Vincenzo noticed. His eyes flickered with something Emily couldn't read. Your salary will be $200,000 annually, Vincenzo began. Emily nearly choked. That's non-negotiable. You'll live here full-time. Your quarters will be on the second floor adjacent to Mikey's room. Your job is simple. Keep my son happy, keep him safe, and teach him whatever you think he needs to learn. What about school? He's homeschooled, has been since Vincenzo stopped. Since the kidnapping attempt, Mikey finished quietly. Emily turned to look at him. That was the one where my dad killed 3 men in front of me. Yeah, Vincenzo's knuckles went white. That wasn't how I wanted you to learn that. Learn what? That you're a murderer. I already knew that. The words hung in the air like poison. Vincenzo stood slowly, and Emily saw the monster everyone feared, controlled rage barely leashed. Watch your mouth, Michael. Or what? You'll kill me too. Don't be ridiculous. Then what? What happens when I finally push you too far? Vincenzo walked around the desk, and Mikey immediately stepped back. Emily stood, putting herself between them without thinking. Vincenzo stopped. Move. No. This is between me and my son. And I'm his. Emily paused. What was she? I'm his person, and I don't move. Vincenzo stared at her. Emily stared back, her heart hammering, but her feet planted. Then Vincenzo did something unexpected. He laughed. Not a cruel laugh, a real one, surprised and almost warm. You're either very brave or very stupid, Miss Carter. Someone already told me that. What did you say? Probably both. Vincenzo's smile faded. I'm not going to hurt my son. Then why is he afraid you will? Because Vincenzo stopped, and for the first time, Emily saw the mask slip completely. Because I don't know how to love him without scaring him. I don't know how to protect him without controlling him. And every time I try to explain that, it comes out wrong. Mikey's grip on Emily's shoulder tightened. Vincenzo saw it. You trust her more than me. It wasn't a question. Mikey nodded. Why? Because she gave me a choice. You never give me choices. Vincenzo looked like he'd been shot. Every choice I make is to keep you alive. But none of them are mine. Silence fell heavy and suffocating. Emily broke it. What if we start small, one choice a day? Something that doesn't involve safety or security? Just normal kid choices. Like what? Vincenzo asked. Like what he eats for breakfast, what he wears, what he wants to study that day. Those are trivial. Those are the building blocks of autonomy, and autonomy builds trust. Vincenzo studied her. You really think you can fix this? I think we can all try to fix this together. And if you're wrong, if this experiment fails and my son gets hurt because I gave him too much freedom, then at least he'll know you tried. Vincenzo was quiet for a long moment. Then he turned to Mikey. What do you want for dinner tonight? Mikey blinked. What? You heard me? What do you want? Mikey looked at Emily, confused. It's okay, Emily whispered. Answer him. Pizza, Mikey said quietly, with pepperoni and those little hot peppers you hate. Vincenzo's mouth twitched. I don't hate them. They hate me. There's a difference. Can I really have pizza? You can have whatever you want. Mikey stared at his father like he'd grown a second head. That's one choice, Vincenzo said. Tomorrow there'll be another, and the day after that, until maybe, his voice caught, until maybe you stop looking at me like I'm the enemy. I don't think you're the enemy, Mikey whispered. Then what am I? I don't know yet. Vincenzo nodded slowly. Fair enough. A knock interrupted them. Mrs. Chen appeared in the doorway. Sir Marco is here. He says it's urgent. Vincenzo's expression hardened instantly. Tell him I'm busy. He says it's about the Castellanos situation, that every muscle in Vincenzo's body went rigid. Get Mikey out of here, now! What's wrong? Emily asked. Mrs. Chen, take my son upstairs. I'm not leaving, Miss Emily, Mikey said, grabbing her hand. Michael, this isn't... A man burst into the study, tall, scarred, with wild eyes that screamed violence. They hit the warehouse, he said without preamble. 4 men dead, the shipment's gone, And they left a message. He threw a photograph on Vincenzo's desk. Vincenzo looked at it, and his face went white. "What is it?" Emily asked. Vincenzo turned the photo over. "Get my son out of here, right now." But Emily had already seen it. A photograph of Mikey at the playground yesterday. With Emily. Timestamp 3:47 p.m. Someone had been watching them. "They know about her," Marco said, looking at Emily. "They know you hired her. They know everything." Vincenzo's hands shook the first time Emily had seen him lose control. "How?" "Someone in the house. Has to be. No other way they'd have surveillance that fast." Emily's stomach dropped. "Someone here works for your enemies." "Not for long," Vincenzo said, and his voice promised death. Mikey started crying, silent tears that broke Emily's heart. "We need to move the boy," Marco said. "Tonight. Safe house upstate." "No," Mikey whispered. "No more running." "This isn't running. This is survival." "I said no." Mikey's voice rose to a scream. "I'm not leaving. I'm not going to another house with different guards and different rooms in the same fear I'm staying here with Miss Emily." "Mikey," Vincenzo started, "you promised. You said I could have choices. Not choices that get you killed." "Then kill them first," Mikey screamed. "You're so good at killing people. Kill the ones trying to hurt me. But don't send me away. Don't take away the one person who makes me feel safe." The room went silent. Vincenzo looked at Emily. "You make him feel safe." Emily nodded. "More than I do." It wasn't a question, but Emily answered anyway. "Different kind of safe." Vincenzo closed his eyes. When he opened them, he'd made a decision. "Marco, double the guards. I want eyes on every entrance, every window, every shadow. No one in or out without my direct approval. Boss, and find the leak. I don't care how. Find them by morning or don't come back." Marco nodded and left. Vincenzo turned to Emily. "You're staying in Mikey's room tonight. You don't leave his side. You don't trust anyone except Mrs. Chen." "Understood. What about you?" "I have work to do." "What kind of work?" Vincenzo's smile was cold and terrible. "The kind that keeps my son alive." He walked out, leaving Emily alone with Mikey. Mikey was shaking. Emily pulled him into a hug. "I'm scared," he whispered. "Me too." "What if they get in? What if they hurt you?" "They won't." "You don't know that." Emily didn't, but she held him tighter anyway. Mrs. Chen appeared. "Come, I'll show you to Michael's room. You will want to settle in before dark." "Why before dark?" Emily asked. Mrs. Chen's expression was grim, because that's when they usually come. Mikey's room was nothing like Emily expected. No expensive furniture, no luxury, just a normal kid's room, Star Wars posters, action figures, books scattered everywhere. "You decorated this yourself?" Emily asked. Mikey nodded. "Dad said I could make it whatever I wanted. It's the only place in the house that's mine." Emily understood. This room was Mikey's rebellion, his claim to normalcy in a world of violence. "It's perfect," she said. Mrs. Chen pointed to a door. "Your quarters are through there, bathrooms shared. There's a panic button beside each bed. Red button, don't touch it unless you're dying. Literally dying. Mr. Romano takes false alarms very seriously." "What happens if I push it?" 20 armed men break down your door in under 30 seconds. Try not to be naked." Emily blinked. "Noted." Mrs. Chen left. Emily and Mikey stood in his room, the weight of the day crashing down on them. "Are you hungry?" Emily asked. "Dad said we could have pizza." "Then let's get pizza." They went downstairs together. The house was different now, tense, watchful. Men in suits moved through hallways with their hands near their weapons. Every shadow felt dangerous. The kitchen was enormous and empty. Emily found a phone on the wall, picked it up. "Who are you calling?" Mikey asked. "Pizza place." Mikey laughed sharp in surprise. "We don't order pizza, we have a chef." "You have a chef who makes pizza?" "No, we have a chef who makes quail and risotto and things with names I can't pronounce." "That sounds terrible." "It is." Emily put the phone down. "Show me where the food is. We'll make our own." They raided the industrial-sized refrigerator, pulling out cheese sauce dough that the chef had probably made for something sophisticated. Emily had never made pizza in her life. It showed. "That looks like a blob," Mikey said, watching her attempt to shape the dough. "It's abstract pizza. It's abstract terrible." They were laughing, actually laughing, when Vincenzo walked in. He stopped in the doorway staring at the disaster they'd created. Flour everywhere, cheese on the ceiling, sauce on their faces. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Making choices," Emily said, grinning. Vincenzo looked at his son covered in flour and smiling, and something in his expression softened. "Can I help?" Mikey froze. "You want to help?" "I want to try." For the next hour, Vincenzo Romano, crime lord killer monster, made pizza with his son and a waitress from Millbrook. He was terrible at it. "You're worse than Miss Emily," Mikey said, watching his father mangle the dough. "That's because I usually pay people to cook. You pay people to do everything." "Not everything." "Name one thing you do yourself," Vincenzo thought. "I tie my own shoes." Mikey giggled. Actually giggled. Emily watched father and son throw flour at each other, and she thought maybe, just maybe, this could work. The pizza was burned and lopsided and perfect. They ate it in Mikey's room, sitting on the floor like normal people having a normal night. "This is the best pizza I've ever had," Mikey said. "That's because you made it," Vincenzo said quietly. "We made it." Vincenzo looked at his son, and Emily saw tears in his eyes. "Yeah," Vincenzo whispered. "We did." At 9 p.m., Vincenzo stood to leave. "I have to work," he said, "but I'll check on you later." "What kind of work?" Mikey asked. Vincenzo hesitated. "The kind I don't want you to know about yet. But I'll know eventually. Eventually, but not tonight." Vincenzo kissed Mikey's forehead, awkward and unpracticed. "Sleep well." He left. Emily helped Mikey get ready for bed. Normal routine, normal kid stuff. "Miss Emily," Mikey said, climbing under his covers. "Yeah. Do you think my dad can really change?" Emily thought about Vincenzo making pizza, about the tears in his eyes, about the way he'd kissed his son like he was learning how. "I think he's trying. That's a start." "Is trying enough?" "It has to be." Mikey fell asleep holding Emily's hand. Emily sat in a chair beside his bed, watching him breathe, listening to the house settle around them. At midnight, she heard gunfire. Distant, muffled, but unmistakable. Mikey woke instantly. "They're here." Emily's hand went to the panic button. More gunfire. Closer now. The door burst open. Emily screamed. But it was Vincenzo, blood on his shirt gun in his hand. "They breached the south gate," he said. "Stay here. Don't open this door for anyone except me." "How many?" Emily asked. 8, maybe more." "Are we going to die?" Vincenzo looked at his son, terrified in bed, and something fierce crossed his face. "No," he said. "You're not." He left, locking the door behind him. Emily pulled Mikey onto her lap, covering his ears with her hands, trying to block out the sounds of violence below, trying to protect him from his father's world. But the violence came anyway. It always did. The gunfire stopped. Silence pressed down like a weight, and Emily realized that was worse than the noise, worse than the fear, because now they didn't know if Vincenzo was alive or dead. Mikey pulled away from her hands. "I need to hear." "No. If they're coming for us, I need to hear them coming." Emily's hands shook, but she let him go. They sat in the darkness, listening. Footsteps in the hallway, heavy, multiple people, getting closer. "Under the bed," Emily whispered. "Now." "I'm not hiding." "You're 8. You don't get to be brave yet." "Under the bed." Mikey crawled under just as the doorknob rattled. Emily grabbed the lamp from the nightstand, ridiculous weapon, but it was all she had. The door exploded inward. Not kicked. Exploded, like someone had put a small charge on the lock. A man stepped through the smoke, not one of Vincenzo's men. Wrong suit, wrong face, wrong everything. "Where's the kid?" he asked, his voice rough and accented. Emily raised the lamp. "Not here." The man laughed. "You're the waitress, the one who thinks she can save Romano's son." He pulled out a gun. "You can't." Emily's bladder almost let go, but she stood her ground. "Get out. Give me the boy, I'll leave you alive." "Maybe." "I said get out." The man took a step forward. A gunshot rang out. The man dropped a hole in his head before he even knew he was dead. Vincenzo stood in the doorway, his gun still raised, his face splattered with blood that wasn't his. "You okay?" he asked Emily. Emily couldn't speak, couldn't move. She just watched a man die 3 feet from her. "Emily," Vincenzo's voice cut through her shock. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head. "Mikey." "Under the bed," Emily managed. Vincenzo holstered his gun and knelt down. Come out, son, it's over. Mikey crawled out, saw the body, and immediately threw up. Vincenzo grabbed him, held him while he retched, and Emily saw the monster become a father again. I'm sorry, Vincenzo whispered into Mikey's hair. I'm so sorry you had to see that. You killed him. Mikey gasped between heaves. I did. Right in front of me. I know. Just like before. Vincenzo's eyes closed. Yes. Mikey pulled away, wiping his mouth. Why do you always kill them in front of me? Because keeping you alive matters more than keeping you innocent. That's the problem. Mikey's voice cracked. You think those are the only two choices? They are the only two choices in my world. Then your world is wrong. Marco appeared in the doorway. Boss, we got 5 of them. 3 escaped, and we found the leak. Vincenzo stood slowly. Who? You're going to want to see this yourself. Vincenzo looked at Emily. Stay with him. Don't leave this room until I come back. How do I know you're coming back? Something flickered across Vincenzo's face, surprised that she cared maybe. Because I always come back for my son. He left with Marco stepping over the body like it was furniture. Emily pulled Mikey away from the corpse into the bathroom and locked the door. She wet a washcloth and cleaned his face while he cried. I can't do this, Mikey whispered. I can't keep seeing people die. I know. He's never going to change. He killed that man to save you. He's killed lots of men to save me. It doesn't make it better. It makes it worse. Mikey looked up at her with devastated eyes. Because I'm the reason people die. Me. If I didn't exist, none of this would happen. Emily grabbed his shoulders. Don't you dare. Don't you dare think you are responsible for your father's choices. But I am. No, you're 8 years old. You didn't ask to be born into this. You didn't ask for any of it. Emily's voice shook. Your father made his choices long before you existed. His violence isn't your fault. Then why does it feel like it is? Emily pulled him close, and they sat on the bathroom floor holding each other while the house settled into an awful, blood-soaked quiet. 20 minutes later, Vincenzo knocked. It's me. Open up. Emily unlocked the door. Vincenzo had changed his shirt, washed the blood off his face, but she could still see it in his eyes, the violence he'd just committed. The leak was Antonio Cheese, Vincenzo said quietly. My head of security. Been with me for 12 years. Mikey's eyes went wide. Tony. But he taught me to play chess. I know. Why would he? Castellano offered him $2 million in immunity. He took it. Vincenzo's jaw tightened. He's the one who gave them your location yesterday? He's the one who told them about Miss Carter. Emily's stomach dropped. Where is he now? Basement, waiting for me to decide what to do with him. You mean waiting for you to kill him? Mikey said flatly. He betrayed us. He taught me chess. And then he sold you to the people who want to cut you into pieces. Vincenzo's control slipped. Do you understand that the man you trusted was going to let them torture you just to hurt me? Mikey started crying again. I don't want you to kill him. That's not your decision. Please, Dad, please don't. Not tonight, not after. Mikey gestured at the bedroom where the body still lay. Please. Vincenzo looked at his son, then at Emily. What do you think I should do, Miss Carter? Emily blinked. You're asking me. You're the one teaching him about choices. So tell me what's the right choice here. It was a test. Emily knew it was a test. I think, Emily said carefully, that Mikey's seen enough death tonight. I think whatever you do with Antonio can wait until morning. And I think your son needs to know that you value his feelings more than your revenge. Vincenzo stared at her for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone and made a call. Marco, move Antonio to the secure facility upstate. I'll deal with him tomorrow. He hung up. Happy? Mikey nodded, still crying. Vincenzo knelt in front of his son. I'm trying, Mikey. I know I'm bad at this. I know I keep doing everything wrong, but I'm trying. I know. Do you hate me? The question hung in the air, raw and desperate. Mikey wiped his eyes. I don't know how to not hate you and not love you at the same time. Vincenzo's face crumpled. That's fair. Can you sleep in here tonight? Mikey asked quietly. All of us. Vincenzo looked surprised. You want me to stay? I'm scared, and when I'm scared, I want my dad. Even if my dad is the reason I'm scared. Vincenzo pulled Mikey into a hug, and Emily saw his shoulders shake. They moved to Emily's quarters. It was bigger, and there was no body in it. Mikey climbed into Emily's bed. Vincenzo took the chair by the window, his gun on his lap. You should sleep too, Emily said. I'll sleep when I'm dead. That might be sooner than you think if you don't rest. Vincenzo almost smiled. You're very bossy for an employee. You're very stubborn for someone who asked for my help. Touché. Emily settled onto the bed next to Mikey, who was already half asleep. Miss Emily, Mikey mumbled. Yeah. Are you going to leave now after tonight? Emily looked at the blood on the carpet they'd tracked in at Vincenzo holding a gun in the darkness at the nightmare she'd walked into. No, she said. I'm not leaving. Why not? Because you need me. That's not a good enough reason. It's the only reason that matters. Mikey fell asleep holding her hand. Emily lay awake staring at the ceiling, wondering what she'd gotten herself into. You should leave, Vincenzo said quietly. Emily turned her head. He was watching her in the darkness. You just heard me tell Mikey I'm staying. I heard you lie to make him feel better. But we both know this isn't sustainable. Tonight proved that. Tonight proved that Mikey needs stability more than ever. Stability? Vincenzo laughed bitterly. There's no stability in my world. Only temporary ceasefires between wars. Then maybe it's time to end the war. You don't end wars like this. You survive them. Emily sat up carefully, not wanting to wake Mikey. What if you didn't? What if you walked away? We had this conversation, and you gave me excuses. I'm asking you to give me real answers. Emily kept her voice low but fierce. What would it actually take for you to leave this life? Vincenzo was quiet for a long time. My enemies would have to be eliminated. Every single one. The 5 families in New York, the Castellanos, the Russians who think they can muscle into my territory. All of them. Gone. Can you do that? Not without becoming the monster my son already thinks I am. He doesn't think you're a monster. Yes, he does. He's just too kind to say it directly. Vincenzo's voice broke. He loves me and hates me and fears me all at once. That's worse than if he just hated me. At least then I'd know where I stand. You stand exactly where every parent stands, trying your best and failing constantly and hoping your kid forgives you for it. Other parents don't murder people in front of their children. Other parents don't have people trying to murder their children. Vincenzo looked at her, and Emily saw the exhaustion in his eyes. Not physical, soul-deep exhaustion. The kind that came from fighting a battle you knew you'd never win. Why are you really staying? He asked. Because Mikey asked me to. Because I gave my word. Because... Emily stopped. Because I've spent my whole life being invisible. Being the girl who pours coffee and smiles and never matters to anyone. And for the first time I matter. To him. Maybe that makes me selfish. That makes you human. They sat in the darkness, 2 people from completely different worlds bonded by a traumatized 8-year-old sleeping between them. If you stay, Vincenzo said quietly, you need to understand something. The people who came tonight, they'll come again. And next time they might succeed. You could die, Emily, brutally, and I won't be able to stop it. Then teach me to stop it myself. Vincenzo blinked. What? You heard me. Teach me to shoot, to fight, to survive in your world, because I'm not leaving Mikey, which means I'm staying in your world, which means I need to be able to protect him when you can't. That's insane. Everything about this is insane, but I'm doing it anyway. Vincenzo studied her in the darkness. You're serious. Completely. Training starts tomorrow, 6 a.m. Don't be late. I'm a waitress. I've been awake at 6 a.m. for 4 years. Not like this, you haven't. They fell into silence again. Emily almost drifted off when Vincenzo spoke. Thank you. Emily opened her eyes. For what? For not running, for staying when any sane person would have fled, for his voice caught, for making my son smile. I'd forgotten what that looked like. He smiles more than you think. You just don't see it because he hides it from you. Why? Because he's afraid showing you joy means showing you weakness. And in your world, weakness gets people killed. Vincenzo absorbed that like a punch to the gut. How do I fix that? He asked. Start by showing him your joy. Show him your weakness. Show him you're human, not just a weapon. I don't know how to do that. Then learn. You said you're trying, so try harder. Vincenzo laughed quietly. You're very demanding for someone who's been here less than a day. You hired me to make Mikey happy. That means calling you out when you're failing. And am I failing? Emily looked at Mikey sleeping peacefully despite everything. Not as badly as you think, but not as well as you could. Morning came with gray light and the smell of coffee. Emily woke to find Vincenzo gone and Mikey sitting up in bed staring at the bloodstains on the floor. Did last night really happen? He asked. Yeah. There was a man and Dad shot him and Tony betrayed us. I know. Mikey looked at her. Are you scared? Terrified. But you're still here. I'm still here. Why? Emily pulled him close. Because some kids are worth being terrified for. Mrs. Chen appeared in the doorway with breakfast, actual breakfast. Not quail or risotto. Pancakes, bacon, orange juice. Mr. Romano thought you might prefer something familiar this morning, she said, setting the tray down. Where is he? Emily asked. Cleaning up last night's mess. Mrs. Chen's expression was unreadable. Literally and figuratively. What does that mean? It means there are bodies to dispose of, blood to clean, and a traitor to interrogate. The usual Monday morning activities in this house. Emily's stomach turned. He said he'd wait until this morning to deal with Antonio. He is waiting until after breakfast. Mr. Romano believes in maintaining some civilized routines even during times of war. Mrs. Chen paused. He also asked me to tell you training begins in 40 minutes. Dress comfortably. She left. Mikey picked at his pancakes. You don't have to do the training. Yes, I do. It's going to be really hard. Dad's men train like they're going to war. They are going to war. Exactly, you're a waitress. I'm a waitress who's going to learn to protect you. Eat your breakfast. Mikey ate 3 bites and pushed the plate away. I can't. My stomach's all twisted. Mine too. Are you really going to let him teach you to kill people? Emily paused. I'm going to let him teach me to protect people. There's a difference. Is there? Has to be. At precisely 6 a.m., Emily found herself in the basement. Not the scary basement where Antonio was probably being tortured, but a different basement. This one was a gym that looked like it belonged to a professional military unit. Vincenzo was waiting dressed in workout clothes, looking more human than she'd ever seen him. Ready? He asked. No. Good. Fear keeps you sharp. He handed her a gun. Emily stared at it like it might bite her. I've never held a gun before. That changes today. This is a Glock 19, 15 rounds. Safety here. Trigger here. You point it at someone you shoot to kill. No warning shots, no aiming for legs. Center mass, always. I can't. You can and you will, because the next time someone breaks into this house, I might not be there to save you. So you save yourself. For the next 2 hours, Vincenzo taught Emily everything he knew. How to hold a gun, how to aim, how to breathe, how to kill. She hated every second of it, and she hit every target by the end. You're a natural, Vincenzo said, surprised. I'm a desperate woman with good hand-eye coordination from years of carrying coffee pots. Whatever works. They moved to hand-to-hand combat. Vincenzo was gentle, sort of teaching her basic defense moves. Someone grabs you from behind. What do you do? Emily tried to remember. Elbow to the gut. Elbow to the gut. Stomp on their instep. Headbutt backward if you're tall enough. Then run. Always run. They practiced until Emily's muscles screamed. Enough, Vincenzo finally said. You did well. I feel like I'm going to throw up. That's normal. Fear and adrenaline do that. They sat on the gym floor, both breathing hard. Why are you doing this? Emily asked. Really? You could have just hired bodyguards for Mikey. Why let me stay? Vincenzo was quiet for a long time. Because when Mikey talks about you, his voice changes. He sounds hopeful, and I haven't heard him sound hopeful in years. That's it. That's the only reason. No, shh. Vincenzo met her eyes. The other reason is that when you stood between me and my son yesterday, you weren't afraid of what I'd do to you. You were afraid of what I'd do to him. That's the kind of loyalty money can't buy. I'm not loyal to you. I'm loyal to Mikey. I know. That's why I trust you. Footsteps on the stairs made them both turn. Marco appeared, his face grim. "Boss, Antonio's talking. You need to hear this." Vincenzo stood. "I'll be there in 5 minutes." "Boss, it's bad, really bad." "How bad?" "He says the Castellanos aren't the ones who put the hit on Mikey." Vincenzo went very still. "Then who did?" Marco looked at Emily, hesitated. "Say it," Vincenzo ordered. "Your brother, boss. Luca put the hit out. He's the one who wants the kid dead." The words hung in the air like poison. Emily saw Vincenzo's face go white. "That's not possible. Antonio says Luca's been planning this for months. Wants to take over the family. Knows he can't do that while Mikey's alive, because Mikey's the rightful heir." "Luca wouldn't," Vincenzo stopped. "Where is he now?" "That's the problem. We don't know. He disappeared last night, right after the attack." Vincenzo closed his eyes. When he opened them, Emily saw something she'd never seen before. Heartbreak. "Get everyone together, every man we have. I want Luca found by tonight. And when we find him," Vincenzo's voice went cold and empty, "then I do what I should have done years ago." Marco left. Emily stood slowly. "Your brother wants to kill Mikey." "Apparently." "Why didn't you know? How did you not see this coming?" "Because Luca's my baby brother. I taught him to ride a bike. I protected him from our father. I trusted him with my life." Vincenzo's voice cracked. "How do you see betrayal from the person you love most?" "By remembering that love doesn't make you bulletproof." Vincenzo looked at her. "Mikey can never know. Do you understand? He can never know his uncle tried to have him killed. He'll find out eventually. Not from me, not today. Let him have one more day of thinking his family loves him." Emily wanted to argue, but she saw the devastation in Vincenzo's eyes and understood. This was the moment that broke him. Not the attack, not the traitor. This. "What are you going to do?" Emily asked quietly. "What I always do, whatever it takes to keep my son alive. Even if it means killing your brother." Vincenzo met her eyes. "Especially if it means that." Emily followed Vincenzo upstairs, watching his shoulders carry a weight she couldn't imagine, the weight of choosing between a son and a brother. They found Mikey in the library reading a book he wasn't actually reading. His eyes tracked the same line over and over. "Hey, buddy," Vincenzo said, his voice almost normal. "How you feeling?" "Like everyone's lying to me." Vincenzo froze. "What?" Mikey set down the book. "I heard Marco. I was coming downstairs, and I heard him say Uncle Luca's name. I heard him say someone wants me dead." Emily's stomach dropped. Vincenzo's mask slipped completely. "Mikey, is Uncle Luca trying to kill me?" The question hung in the air like a grenade with the pin pulled. Vincenzo looked at Emily, desperate, but she had no answers for him. "Yes," Vincenzo finally said. Mikey's face crumpled. "Why?" "Because he wants what I have, and he can't have it while you're alive. So it's my fault." "No." Vincenzo crossed the room, knelt in front of his son. "This is not your fault. This is about greed and power and a broken man making evil choices. You are innocent in this. Innocent. Uncle Luca taught me to swim. He came to my birthday parties. He said I was his favorite nephew. You're his only nephew. He said he loved me." Mikey's voice broke. "Was that a lie? Was everything a lie?" Vincenzo pulled Mikey into his arms. I don't know what was real and what was manipulation. But I know this, I will not let him hurt you." "You're going to kill him?" "Yes." Mikey pulled back. "What if I don't want you to?" "That's not your decision. He's my uncle. Do not I get a say in whether he lives or dies?" "Not when his living means you're dying." They stared at each other, both breathing hard, both devastated. Emily stepped forward. "Can I talk to Mikey alone for a minute?" Vincenzo looked like he wanted to argue, but he nodded and left. Emily sat beside Mikey on the couch. "Talk to me." "Everyone I love either leaves or tries to kill me. What's wrong with me?" "Nothing is wrong with you. What's wrong is the world your father built, a world where love and violence are so tangled up that people can't tell them apart anymore. Uncle Luca used to sneak me candy. He taught me card tricks. Mikey's voice broke. How do you love someone and want them dead at the same time? You don't. You grieve who you thought they were, and you accept who they actually are. I don't want to accept this. I know." Mikey wiped his eyes. "If Dad kills Uncle Luca, I'll never forgive him. even if it saves your life. Especially then, because then I have to live knowing someone died because of me. Emily's heart shattered. Mikey, listen to me. You cannot carry that weight. You're 8 years old. I'm Vincenzo Romano's son. I've been carrying weight since I was born. Before Emily could respond, Vincenzo's phone rang from the hallway. She heard his voice sharp and tense. Then silence. Vincenzo appeared in the doorway, his face white. He called. Luca, Emily asked. He wants to meet, tonight. Says he'll explain everything. Says he's not the enemy. It's a trap, Emily said immediately. Of course it's a trap, but it's also the only way to end this. You can't go. I have to. Vincenzo looked at his son. I have to hear what he has to say. Then I'm coming with you, Mikey said. Absolutely not. He's my uncle. I deserve to hear his lies to my face. Mikey, if something goes wrong, then you'll protect me. That's what you do, right? That's what all the killing is for. Vincenzo flinched like he'd been slapped. I'll come too, Emily said. Both Romano men turned to stare at her. You just learned to shoot this morning, Vincenzo said. This isn't... I'm Mikey's person. Where he goes, I go. That was the deal. Vincenzo ran his hands through his hair. This is insane. This is the stupidest... He stopped. Fine, but you both stay in the car. Bulletproof glass armed guards. You don't move until I say it's safe. Where's the meeting? Emily asked. The old Romano estate, where my father raised us, where Luca and I grew up together. Vincenzo's voice went hollow. He chose it specifically. Wants me to remember what we were before I kill what we've become. They left at sunset, 3 armored SUVs, 12 armed men, and a family tearing itself apart. Mikey sat between Emily and Vincenzo in the back seat, silent and small. I used to love that house, Mikey said quietly. Grandpa would let me feed the koi fish in the pond before he died. I know, Vincenzo said. Uncle Luca said Grandpa wanted me to take over someday. Said I'd be the best Romano yet. He was probably already planning this then. Mikey's hands balled into fists. I hate him. Good. Hate keeps you sharp. You sound like a villain. Maybe I am, ma'am. No, Mikey said fiercely. Villains don't cry when their sons run away. Villains don't make pizza. Villains don't try. Vincenzo looked at his son with something like wonder. When did you get so wise? I've been paying attention. The Romano estate appeared through the trees, massive old money, beautiful and completely dark. He cut the power, Marco said from the front seat. Wants us blind. He forgets I grew up here too. I know every shadow in that house. Vincenzo checked his gun. Marco, take positions around by the perimeter. No one in or out without my signal. Boss, let me go in first. No, this is between brothers. It ends with brothers. Vincenzo turned to Emily and Mikey. Stay in the car, lock the doors. If anything happens to me, Marco will get you out. Understand? What if he kills you? Mikey asked. Then you run. You run fast and far, and you never look back. I'm not leaving you. Yes, you are, because if I'm dead, the only thing that matters is keeping you alive. Vincenzo kissed Mikey's forehead. I love you, even if I'm terrible at showing it. I love you more than anything in this world. Dad. Vincenzo was already out of the car, walking toward the dark house. Emily watched him go, her heart in her throat. He's going to die, Mikey whispered. No, he's not. How do you know? Because he has too much to live for. They waited in silence. 5 minutes, 10, 15. Then the lights in the house came on blazing bright, and they heard the first gunshot. No, Mikey lunged for the door. Emily grabbed him. Your father said, I don't care what he said. He's in there alone. Another gunshot. Then another. Marco's voice crackled over the radio. We've got movement, multiple shooters. This wasn't just Luca, he brought an army. Emily made a decision in 3 seconds flat. Stay behind me, she told Mikey, pulling out the gun Vincenzo had given her that morning. Miss Emily, your father taught me to protect you, so that's what I'm doing. They ran toward the house. Marco tried to stop them, but Emily pushed past him. Where's Vincenzo? Second floor east wing. But you can't. Emily was already inside Mikey, right behind her, running through a house she didn't know, toward a man she barely understood to save a family that wasn't hers. The house was chaos. Gunfire echoed. Men shouted. Glass shattered. Emily pulled Mikey into a side room, her hands shaking so badly she could barely hold the gun. "We're going to Mikey said. "We're going to live. Now shut up and let me think." Footsteps in the hallway. Emily raised her gun, remembering Vincenzo's training. "Center mass. Shoot to kill." The door opened. A man stepped through, not one of Vincenzo's men. Emily fired. The recoil nearly knocked her backward, but the man dropped a red bloom spreading across his chest. She'd just killed someone. Emily stood frozen, staring at what she'd done. "Miss Emily?" Mikey's scream snapped her back. Another man was coming through the door. Emily fired again. And again, and again. 3 men down, her hands covered in blood that wasn't hers. "We need to move," she gasped. "Now!" They ran down the hallway, following the sound of Vincenzo's voice. "I should have known you didn't have the spine to do this yourself." "Oh, I have the spine, brother. I just have something you never had. Patience." Emily and Mikey reached the doorway of what looked like their father's old study. Vincenzo stood with his back to the wall, blood running down his arm. Luca stood 15 feet away, a gun pointed at his brother's head. And between them, Emily's breath stopped. Mrs. Chen stood beside Luca, a gun in her hand, aimed at Vincenzo. "You," Vincenzo breathed. "You were the real leak, not Antonio." Mrs. Chen smiled coldly. "Antonio was convenient, a distraction while I finished the real work. I trusted you. For 15 years I trusted you. And I hated you for 15 years, ever since you killed my son." The room went silent. "Your son, duh." Vincenzo's face went white. "Chen had a son, David Chen, 23 years old. You had him executed for stealing from you. Remember?" Vincenzo's eyes closed. "He was embezzling $500,000. He was my child." Mrs. Chen's composure cracked. "My only child, and you put a bullet in his head because money mattered more than mercy. He stole from me. He was trying to pay for his mother's cancer treatment. Treatment I couldn't afford on the salary you paid me, so yes, he stole, and you killed him for it." Emily felt Mikey trembling beside her. "So you helped Luca," Vincenzo said quietly. "Helped him plan to murder my son, to make me feel what you felt." "Eye for an eye, Vincenzo. That's your world, isn't it? I'm just playing by your rules." Luca stepped forward. "Touching story, Mrs. Chen, but we're running out of time. Marco's men are closing in." "Then shoot him," Mrs. Chen said. "Shoot him and let's finish this." "No!" Mikey burst into the room before Emily could stop him. Everyone turned. "Mikey, get out of here," Vincenzo shouted. "I'm not letting you kill each other." Luca's face twisted. "Oh, nephew, sweet naive nephew, this has nothing to do with you. You put a hit on me. How does that have nothing to do with me? The hit was theater, bait to draw your father out, make him vulnerable, make him desperate." Luca smiled, and it worked perfectly. Here he is alone, bleeding, willing to do anything to save you. "You never wanted me dead." Mikey's voice was small. "Of course not. You're my nephew. I love you." "Then why?" "Because your father needs to die, and he never would have come here if he didn't think you were in danger." Luca looked at Vincenzo. "Everything I did was to get you right here, right now, with your guard down." "You used your own nephew as bait," Vincenzo said, his voice thick with disgust. "I used the only thing you care about more than power. Seemed fitting." Emily raised her gun, pointing it at Luca. "Let them go." Luca laughed. "The waitress with a gun. How adorable. Put it down before you hurt yourself." "I've already killed 3 men tonight. What's one more, Mom?" Luca's smile faded. "You're bluffing. Try me." "Emily, don't," Vincenzo said. "He'll kill you." "He'll try." Luca turned his gun on Emily. "Last chance, waitress." "Same to you." They stood in a standoff, guns pointed, fingers on triggers. One wrong move from everyone dying. "Enough," Mrs. Chen's voice cut through the tension. "Luca, shoot Vincenzo, now." "I can't, there's a child here." "So close your eyes, but do it now before his men arrive." Luca raised his gun toward Vincenzo. Mikey screamed, "Uncle Luca, please." Luca hesitated. That hesitation saved Vincenzo's life. Vincenzo moved faster than Emily had ever seen, diving sideways as Luca fired. The bullet missed by inches, embedding in the wall. Emily fired at the same time, aiming for Mrs. Chen. The gun clicked empty. Mrs. Chen smiled and raised her gun toward Mikey. "No," Vincenzo threw himself in front of his son. The gunshot was deafening. Vincenzo fell. Dad. Mikey dropped to his knees beside his father. Blood spread across Vincenzo's chest, dark and fast. Mikey! Vincenzo gasped. Run. I'm not leaving you, Cor. Run. Emily grabbed Mikey, pulling him toward the door, but Luca blocked their path. It's over, Luca said, and for the first time he sounded sad. I'm sorry, nephew. This wasn't personal. You helped shoot my father, Mikey screamed. How is that not personal? Because business is never personal. That's what my brother never understood. Marco's voice echoed from downstairs. Boss, we're coming up. Luca, we need to go, Mrs. Chen said. Now. Luca looked at Vincenzo, bleeding on the floor, then at Mikey crying, then at Emily holding an empty gun. I didn't want it to be like this, Luca said quietly. Then he and Mrs. Chen ran. Emily dropped beside Vincenzo, pressing her hands against the wound. Blood poured between her fingers, hot and sticky. Stay with us, Emily begged. Please stay with us. Vincenzo's eyes were already glazing over. Mikey. I'm here, Dad. I'm right here. I'm sorry for everything, for being, he coughed blood on his lips, for being the father you deserved instead of the one you got. You're the father I want. Mikey sobbed. Please don't die. Please. Love you, Vincenzo whispered. So much. His eyes closed. Dad, Dad. Mikey shook him, but Vincenzo didn't respond. Marco burst into the room with 6 men behind him. He saw Vincenzo and went white. Get a medic now! They worked on Vincenzo while Mikey screamed, and Emily held him, both of them covered in blood that belonged to a man who'd started as a monster and ended as a father. The medic looked up after 2 minutes that felt like hours. He's alive, barely. We need to move him now. They carried Vincenzo to the SUV, Mikey and Emily running beside him. Is he going to make it? Emily asked the medic. I don't know. The bullet's close to his heart. If we don't get him to a hospital in the next 20 minutes, he didn't finish. They drove like the devil himself was chasing them. Emily held Mikey while he cried, and she realized something that terrified her. She cared about Vincenzo Romano. Not because he paid her, not because he was Mikey's father, but because somewhere in the chaos of the past 48 hours, she'd seen past the monster to the broken man trying desperately to save the only thing in the world that mattered to him, his son. And now that man might die because he'd thrown himself in front of a bullet meant for that son. He's going to be okay, Emily whispered to Mikey. He has to be. But even she didn't believe it. The hospital doors exploded open as they rushed Vincenzo through on a gurney medical staff swarming like bees around a hive under attack. Gunshot wound to the chest, massive blood loss. Blood pressure, dropping. A doctor grabbed Emily's arm. You family. Emily opened her mouth, but Mikey answered. She's all we have. The doctor nodded. Wait here. We'll update you when we can. They disappeared behind surgical doors, taking Vincenzo with them. Emily and Mikey stood in the hallway, both covered in blood, both shaking. He can't die, Mikey whispered. He just started trying. Emily pulled him close and they sank to the floor together. Marco appeared with 4 men setting up a perimeter around them. We're secure. Luca won't get near this hospital. What if he doesn't need to get near? Emily asked. What if he has people here already? Marco's face went grim. Then we shoot first and ask questions later. They waited. 1 hour became 2. 2 became 3. Mikey fell asleep against Emily's shoulder, exhausted from crying. Emily stayed awake, watching every face that passed, her hand on the gun Marco had given her. At hour 4, a surgeon appeared, still in bloody scrubs. Emily shook Mikey awake. Hey, the doctor's here. The surgeon looked exhausted. He's alive. Emily's knees nearly gave out. He's going to make it. The next 24 hours are critical. The bullet nicked his pulmonary artery. We repaired it, but he lost a lot of blood. If he makes it through the night, the surgeon paused. He might actually survive this. Can we see him? Mikey asked. He's unconscious. Will be for a while. But yes, you can sit with him. They followed the surgeon to ICU. Vincenzo lay in the bed, tubes and wires, everywhere, machines beeping a rhythm that said he was still alive. Mikey climbed onto the bed, carefully curling against his father's side. I'm here, Dad, he whispered. I'm not leaving. Emily sat in the chair beside them, and for the first time in hours, she let herself breathe. At 3 a.m., Vincenzo's eyes opened. Mikey, he rasped. Mikey's head shot up. Dad, you're awake. Am I dead? No, you're in the hospital. You got shot saving me. Vincenzo's mouth twitched. Wouldn't be the first time. Or the last, apparently, Emily said. Vincenzo turned his head, saw her, and something softened in his eyes. You stayed. Where else would I be? Running like any sane person would. I think we've established I'm not sane. Vincenzo almost smiled. Then his expression changed. Luca, Mrs. Chen, they got away. Marco's looking for them, Emily said. He won't find them. Luca's too smart. He planned this for months, maybe years. He'll have escape routes, safe houses, new identities. Vincenzo's voice was bitter. My own brother. How did I miss it? Because you loved him, Mikey said quietly. Love makes you blind. Vincenzo looked at his son. When did you get so wise? Someone told me I get to choose who I become, so I'm choosing to understand instead of hate. You're a better man than me. Not yet, but maybe someday. Vincenzo reached for Mikey's hand, and they stayed like that. Father and son, both scarred, both surviving. A nurse came to check vitals, and Emily stepped into the hallway to give them privacy. Marco was waiting. We found something. What? Mrs. Chen left a phone behind, in the chaos. We cracked it. Marco's face was dark. You need to see what's on it. He pulled out a tablet, showed Emily a series of messages. Messages between Mrs. Chen and someone named David. Wait, Emily breathed. David? She said her son was dead, that Vincenzo killed him. Keep reading. Emily scrolled. The messages were recent, from the past month. Her son's alive, Emily whispered. He faked his death to escape Vincenzo, and she's been helping him hide all these years. It gets worse. Look at the last message. Sent yesterday. Emily read it and her blood ran cold. Phase 2 complete. V, wounded, distracted. Tomorrow we take the boy. Make sure the waitress is eliminated first. She's more dangerous than she looks. They're coming back, Emily said. For Mikey. And they want you dead. Emily looked through the window at Mikey curled against his father, both of them finally at peace. How long do we have? She asked. Best guess hours. Maybe less. We need to move them. Can't. Doctor says moving Vincenzo will kill him. He needs at least 48 hours before he can be transported. So we're sitting ducks. Marco's expression was grim. Pretty much. Emily made a decision. Then we don't wait for them to come to us. We go to them. We don't know where they are, but we know what they want, Mikey, so we give him to them. Marco stared at her. You want to use the kid as bait? I want to end this before more people die, and the only way to do that is to draw them out. The boss will never agree. The boss is unconscious and can't stop me. When he wakes up, he'll kill you himself. Then I'd better make sure this works. Emily went back into the room. Vincenzo had fallen asleep again, his hand still holding Mikey's. Mikey, Emily whispered, can we talk? They stepped into the hallway. I know that look, Mikey said. That's your I'm about to do something stupid look. They're coming back for you. Tonight, and I can't protect you here. So what do we do? Emily knelt down to his eye level. I need you to trust me. Can you do that? Depends what you're asking. I'm asking you to walk out of this hospital with me. Alone. No guards, no protection, just us. Mikey's eyes went wide. You want to use me as bait? I want to give them what they want so we can end this. They'll kill us both. Not if I kill them first. Mikey stared at her for a long moment. You've changed. I know. 2 days ago, you were a waitress who'd never fired a gun. Now you're planning an ambush. 2 days ago, I didn't have someone worth protecting. Mikey's eyes filled with tears. My dad's going to hate this plan. Your dad's unconscious. By the time he wakes up, it'll be over. And if we die, then we die trying to save him from having to choose between his brother and his son again. Mikey thought about it. Then he nodded. Okay, let's do it. They slipped out of the hospital at 4 a.m. using a service exit Marco had shown them. A car was waiting in Marco's doing. He didn't approve, but he'd help anyway. Where are we going? Mikey asked as Emily drove. The one place they'd never expect. The old Romano estate, where this all started. That's insane. Insane is their specialty, which means they won't see it coming. They drove through the pre-dawn darkness, and Emily realized her hands had stopped shaking. The terror was still there, but it was buried under something stronger. Purpose. The Romano estate loomed ahead, dark and empty. Emily parked the car in plain sight, making sure they'd be seen. Now what? Mikey asked. Now we wait for them to come to us. They didn't wait long. At 5 a.m., headlights appeared down the driveway. 2 cars, 6 people total. Luca stepped out first, then Mrs. Chen, then 4 men Emily didn't recognize. Well, Luca called across the lawn, this is unexpected. I thought you'd be cowering at the hospital. Emily stepped out of the car, putting herself between Mikey and the guns pointed at them. Cowering isn't really my style. Clearly, you killed 3 of my men last night. Impressive for a waitress. Your brother's a good teacher. Luca's face darkened. How is my brother still breathing? For now. Pity, I was aiming for his heart. You missed, Mikey said, his voice stronger than Emily expected. You always miss the important stuff, Uncle Luca. Nephew. Luca walked closer. You shouldn't be here. This is between adults. You made it about me when you put a hit out. Fake or not, you used me. I told you that was theater. It was cruel. Mikey's voice rose. You made my dad think I was going to die, just to hurt him. What kind of person does that? The kind who's been living in his shadow for 40 years. Luca's composure cracked. Everything was always about Vincenzo, the heir, the chosen one, the son our father actually loved. I was nothing, an afterthought, a spare. So you decided to kill him. I decided to take what should have been mine from the beginning. Mrs. Chen stepped forward. Enough sentiment. We're here for the boy. Hand him over. Why? Emily asked. Your son's alive. You got what you wanted. Why do you still want Mikey dead? Mrs. Chen's face twisted. Because Vincenzo stole 15 years of my life. 15 years I could have spent with David instead of pretending to serve the man who tried to murder my child. He owes me a debt. So you'll kill an 8-year-old to settle it. An eye for an eye. Isn't that what Vincenzo always said? And that makes you just like him, Emily said. Congratulations. You've become the monster you hate. Mrs. Chen raised her gun. Last chance, give us the boy. No. Then you die first. The gunshot echoed across the lawn, but it didn't come from Mrs. Chen's gun. It came from behind them. One of Luca's men dropped a red bloom spreading across his chest. Marco stepped out of the shadows with 20 armed men. Did you really think we'd let them come alone? Marco asked Luca. Luca's face went white. This was a trap. Figured that out a little late, didn't you? Emily pulled Mikey behind her as Marco's men surrounded Luca's group. Drop your weapons, Marco ordered. Luca's men complied, but Luca himself kept his gun raised. I won't go to prison, Luca said. I won't let Vincenzo win. Then you should have thought of that before you shot your brother, Marco said. I did what I had to do. You did what you wanted to do. There's a difference. Luca's hands shook. I loved him once. Did you know that when we were kids before the family business corrupted everything? I love my brother. Then you should have walked away, Emily said, instead of trying to destroy him. Walking away isn't an option in our world. It is if you're brave enough to take it. Luca looked at her, and for a moment she saw the man he might have been. Before the bitterness, before the jealousy, before he let hate consume him. I'm not brave, Luca whispered. I'm just tired. He turned the gun on himself. Uncle Luca, no! Mikey screamed, but Marco was faster. He shot the gun out of Luca's hand before he could pull the trigger. Luca dropped to his knees, cradling his shattered hand, and started crying. Take him, Marco said to his men. And Mrs. Chen, the boss will decide their fate. As they dragged Luca away, he looked at Mikey one last time. I'm sorry, he said, for all of it. Mikey didn't respond, just watched his uncle disappear into an SUV, knowing he'd never see him again. Mrs. Chen spat at Emily's feet as they took her. You think you've won? You're just another piece on Vincenzo's board. He'll use you up and throw you away like everyone else. Maybe, Emily said, but at least I got to choose to be here. You never gave yourself that choice. They drove back to the hospital as the sun rose, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. Is it over? Mikey asked. For now, Emily said. Will there be more enemies, more attacks, more people trying to kill us? Probably. Are you staying anyway? Emily looked at this brave, broken 8-year-old who'd survived more in 48 hours than most people survived in a lifetime. Yeah, she said, I'm staying. Why budding? Because someone has to teach you that the world isn't all violence and blood. Someone has to show you there's another way. Can you do that? Show me another way while living in my dad's world? I don't know, but I'm going to try. They found Vincenzo awake when they returned, Marco having already called ahead to explain what happened. You used my son as bait, Vincenzo said, his voice weak but furious. I ended your war, Emily countered. You could have gotten him killed. But I didn't. He's safe. Luca's in custody. Mrs. Chen is too, and you're alive. That's a win. Vincenzo looked at her like he was seeing her for the first time. You're not a waitress anymore, are you? No, Emily said. I don't think I am. What are you then? Emily looked at Mikey, then back at Vincenzo. I'm the person who's going to make sure your son grows up knowing love is stronger than fear, even if I have to fight your entire world to prove it. Vincenzo was quiet for a long moment. Then he laughed, actually laughed, despite the pain it caused. You're either the bravest person I've ever met or the craziest. Someone already told me it's probably both. 3 months later, Emily stood in the Romano compound's kitchen, teaching Mikey how to make chocolate chip cookies from scratch. You're putting in too many chips, Mikey said. There's no such thing as too many chocolate chips. Dad says there's a limit to everything. Your dad also thinks quail is an acceptable dinner food. His judgment is questionable. Vincenzo appeared in the doorway, walking without the cane, now almost fully recovered. I heard that, he said. You were meant to, Emily replied, not looking up from the cookie dough. Vincenzo walked to the counter, picked up a chocolate chip, popped it in his mouth. How was school today, Mikey? Good, made a friend, Tommy. He invited me to his birthday party next week. Vincenzo's expression shifted. Is that safe? Dad, Mikey said patiently, we talked about this. Normal kids go to birthday parties. Normal kids don't have people trying to kill them. Neither do I. Not anymore. Uncle Luca's in prison. Mrs. Chen too. You eliminated the Castellanos last month. We're safe. For now. For now is enough, Emily interrupted. He's going to the party. End of discussion. Vincenzo looked at her, and Emily saw the internal war he fought every day between being the father Mikey needed and the protector his world demanded. Fine, Vincenzo said, but he takes 2 guards. 1 guard, Emily countered. 2, one disguised as a parent volunteer. Vincenzo considered. 1 guard, full tactical gear under civilian clothes, panic button on Mikey at all times. Deal, Mikey grinned. You guys are getting better at compromising. Don't push it, Vincenzo said, but he was smiling. Later that night, after Mikey was asleep, Emily found Vincenzo in his study. He's happy, Vincenzo said without looking up from his paperwork. Happier than I've ever seen him. That's the goal. Because of you. Because of us. You've changed too, you know. Vincenzo set down his pen. I still run the same business. Still make the same choices. Still live in the same world. But you're trying to be better. That counts. Does it? When I still have blood on my hands. Emily walked to his desk, sat on the edge. Vincenzo, you're never going to be a saint. Your world doesn't allow it, but you can be a better father, a better man, and that's enough. Is it enough for you? The question hung between them, heavy with meaning. What are you asking? Emily said quietly. I'm asking if you regret staying, if you regret walking into this nightmare. Emily thought about everything that had happened. The violence, the fear, the night she'd killed 3 men to protect a child she barely knew. No, she said, I don't regret it. Why not? Because before I met you and Mikey, I was invisible. I poured coffee and smiled at people who didn't see me and dreamed about a life I'd never have. Emily's voice grew stronger. Now I matter. What I do matters. Who I protect matters. Maybe that makes me selfish, but I don't care. Vincenzo stood slowly, walked around the desk until he was standing in front of her. You're not selfish, he said. You're the least selfish person I've ever met. You stayed for my son, not for me. I stayed for both of you. Emily, you don't have to say anything. I know what this is. I know the limits. I'm his nanny, his teacher, his protector. Nothing more. What if I want it to be more? Emily's breath caught. What if I want you to be part of this family, really part of it, not just an employee? Vincenzo, you're not thinking clearly. You nearly died. Gah. Which gave me a lot of time to think about what matters. And what matters is that my son loves you, trusts you, needs you. Vincenzo's voice dropped. And so do I. Emily's heart hammered. You barely know me. I know you threw yourself into a war zone to save my son. I know you killed to protect him. I know you stayed when anyone with sense would have run. Vincenzo reached for her hand. I know enough. Your world is dangerous. My world is all I have. But maybe with you in it, it could be something better. Something worth fighting for instead of just fighting to survive. Emily looked at this complicated, violent, broken man who was trying so desperately to be better, and she made a choice. Okay, she said, okay. Okay, let's try. Let's see if we can build something good out of all this darkness. Vincenzo pulled her close, and Emily realized something that should have terrified her, but didn't. She was in love with Vincenzo Romano, monster killer crime lord, and father who'd taken a bullet for his son, the man who was failing, trying again, 6 months later. Emily Carter became Emily Romano. The wedding was small, just Mikey Marco, a handful of Vincenzo's most trusted men, and a priest who didn't ask questions. Mikey stood beside them as they exchanged vows, grinning so wide his face hurt. Do you take this woman? The priest began. I do, Vincenzo said before he could finish. I haven't asked the question yet. Don't care, I do. The priest looked flustered but continued. Do you take this man? She does, Mikey interrupted. Trust me, she does. Everyone laughed, and Emily felt something she hadn't felt since her mother died. Home, not a place, a feeling, a family she'd chosen and who'd chosen her back. 1 year later, Emily stood in the Romano compound's kitchen, making breakfast while Mikey did homework at the table. Mom, can you help with this math problem? Emily's heart still stuttered every time he called her mom. What's the problem? If a train leaves Chicago at 60 miles per hour, why is it always trains? Why never planes or cars? Mikey laughed. You sound like Dad. That's concerning. Should I be worried? Probably. Vincenzo appeared dressed for work, kissing Emily's cheek. I have a meeting. Should be back by 6. What kind of meeting, Trout? Emily asked carefully. They'd agreed no specifics about the business. She didn't need to know the details, just enough to keep Mikey safe. The kind that ends with everyone still breathing, Vincenzo said. I'm trying your way. Negotiation before violence. I'm so proud I could cry. Please don't. You know I can't handle tears. Noted. Vincenzo kissed Mikey's head. Be good for your mother. When am I not good? I can make a list. Goodbye, Dad. Vincenzo left, and Emily watched him go, still amazed that this was her life. Mom, Mikey said quietly. Yeah. Are you happy? Emily looked at this boy who'd become her son, at this house that had become her home, at this dangerous, complicated, beautiful life she'd chosen. Yeah, she said, I really am. Even though it's weird, even though Dad's job is scary and people still want to hurt us sometimes, even though all of that, Emily swears beside him, taking his hands. Because before I met you, I was just existing, going through the motions. But you and your dad, you made me realize that living isn't about being safe. It's about being brave enough to love people even when it's hard, even when it's scary. Mikey threw his arms around her neck. I'm glad Dad hired you. Me too. Even if it started because I was hiding behind a dumpster, especially because of that. Best dumpster encounter of my life. Mikey laughed and Emily held him close, thinking about how far they'd all come. From a scared boy, a broken father, and a waitress with dreams she'd given up on, to a family, imperfect, dangerous, and absolutely worth fighting for. That night, after Mikey was asleep, Emily and Vincenzo sat on the balcony watching the stars. He called me Mom today, Emily said. I heard. How'd that feel? Terrifying, amazing. Right. Vincenzo pulled her close. Any regrets? Emily thought about the girl she'd been pouring coffee in Millbrook, dreaming of a life that felt impossible, believing she'd never matter to anyone. Then she thought about the woman she'd become, a mother, a wife, a fighter who'd learned that kindness and strength weren't opposites. Not a single one, Emily said, and she meant it with every fiber of her being. Because sometimes the most important moments in life happen when you least expect them, behind a dumpster with a hungry child and a choice to care when the world tells you to walk away. Emily Carter had given a scared boy scrambled eggs and changed 3 lives forever. That was enough. That was everything.